Hello, and welcome back to Dark Desires Academy. As you know, I'm Miss Anna, and whether this is your first lesson or you have been following the Academy from the very beginning, I am delighted you've decided to spend some time with me today. These lessons that I create are designed to help you build knowledge, confidence, and understanding through education. My goal isn't simply to tell you what to do. I want you to help you understand why these things matter. Because when you understand the reasons behind something, you're far more likely to grow from it. So today's lesson is one that I feel very strongly about because it's one of the biggest misunderstandings I have come across. Yes, today we are going to talk about why submission isn't weakness. It's something I hear all the time, especially from people who are completely new to BDSM. So before we begin today's lesson, I like to leave you with something to think about. We are going to call this Miss Anna's Thought of the Day. Yes, I like that. So are you ready? Good. As strength isn't always loud, sometimes strength is quiet. Sometimes strength is admitting that you don't know everything. Sometimes it's asking questions. Sometimes it's trusting another person. And sometimes it's simply having the courage to be honest with yourself. Real confidence isn't pretending to have all the answers. Real confidence is having the attitude to keep learning. Keep that thought in your mind as we begin today's lesson. So let's begin. One of the first questions I hear from people who are curious about BDSM is this: does submitting make me weak? And yes, it's a genuine question, and it's one that deserves a genuine answer. And my answer is always the same. No, not if it's healthy, not if it's consensual, and not if it's your choice. Because weakness and submission are two completely different things. But unfortunately, society has spent years confusing the two. For example, films often portray submissive people as powerless. Television sometimes portrays them as lacking confidence. Some people might joke that anyone who enjoys submission must be someone be less capable or less intelligent. But that's simply not been my experience. Definitely not. As over the years, I've met many different people from all walks of life. We have the professionals, business owners, teachers, healthcare workers. We have parents. We have the military soldiers. People who make important decisions every single day. And many of them are incredibly confident and very successful in their everyday life. Now that doesn't sound like weakness to me. So why do people still believe it? I think it's because many people misunderstand what submission actually is. Submission isn't about giving up your value as a person. It isn't about becoming less. And it isn't about losing your voice. Healthy submission is a conscious choice. It chooses to place trust in another person within agreed boundaries. And what I want you to notice, one very important word there, choice. Choice is very powerful. When someone freely chooses to enter a healthy power exchange dynamic, they're exercising their freedom. They're not losing it. And that's a very important difference. Think about the strongest relationship in your life. You've got friendships, families, marriage, business partnerships. What do they all have in common? That's right. Trust. And submission is no different in that respect. Trust isn't weakness. Trust is earned. And earning someone's trust takes time. If someone expects instant trust without earning it first, I'll encourage you to slow it right down and ask yourself why. Healthy dynamics aren't built overnight. They're built through good communication, consistency, respect, honesty, and understanding. And those things don't happen by accident. They take effort from everyone involved. Here's something else I would like you to think about. Many people believe confidence means always being in control. Well, I don't agree with that. As some of the most confident people I've met are perfectly comfortable saying, I don't know. Can you please help me understand? I would like to learn more. Now, in my eyes, that takes confidence. As confidence isn't pretending, confidence is being secure enough to keep growing. And that's exactly what I hope these lessons help you to do. Not become perfect, just become better. One lesson at a time. Now let's talk about being open and honest. Have you ever trusted someone enough to tell them something deeply personal? That wasn't weakness. That took courage. Have you ever admitted you've made a mistake? Again, that's not weakness. That's courage. Being open and honest with another person isn't always easy. In fact, it can be one of the hardest things we ever do. Healthy submission asks us to develop that same honesty, to communicate clearly, to admit when something doesn't feel quite right, to celebrate progress, and to acknowledge fears. Those conversations aren't always easy, but they're very, very important and necessary. One thing I've noticed over the years is that the strongest submissives aren't always the most experienced. They're usually the people who never stop learning, the people who ask thoughtful questions, who listen carefully, who communicate honestly, who are always looking for ways to improve themselves. Experience is valuable, but so is an open mind to keep learning. Because the moment we believe we know everything, we stop growing. And once learning stops, growth usually stops too. So what does healthy submission actually look like? It looks like respect. It looks like honesty. It looks like accountability. It looks like keeping your word. And it looks like listening. It looks like communicating before small problems become big ones. Now, those qualities aren't only useful in power exchange, they're useful in every day. And that's one of the reasons I believe learning about healthy dynamics can teach us valuable life skills too. It's equally important to recognize what healthy submission is not. Healthy submission should never require you to ignore your own well-being or abandon your boundaries. You shouldn't leave your feelings unable to speak honestly. It shouldn't rely on fear instead of trust. If communication disappears, if respect disappears, or if someone discourages you from asking questions, that's the moment I want you to pause and reflect. As healthy power exchange is built on informed consent, mutual respect, and ongoing communication. Those things aren't optional. They're the foundation. Now, before we finish today's lesson, I'd like you to think about something. If someone asked you today, why isn't submission a weakness? How would you answer? Would you answer be different now than it would have been 20 minutes ago? If it is, then today's lesson has already achieved something worthwhile. Because education isn't about memorizing information. Education is about changing the way we think. So before you move on with your day, I'd like you to think about these 3 questions. 1. What does strength mean to you? Has your definition changed over time? Question 2. Have you ever confused being open and honest with being weak? Why do you think that is? Question 3. What is the one quality you would like to develop in yourself over the next coming weeks? Not for someone else, for you. This week's challenge is simple. I want you to choose one area where you can practice greater self-awareness. It might be keeping a journal. It might be improving the way you communicate. Or it might be following through on personal commitments that you have been putting off. Whatever you choose, focus on consistency rather than perfection. Small, steady progress is far more valuable than trying to change everything overnight. I'd like to leave you with my final thought. Submission doesn't make someone smaller. When it's healthy, consensual, and built on trust, it can encourage discipline, self-awareness, communication, and personal growth. And to me, those are signs of strength, definitely not weakness. I would like to thank you for joining me for Lesson 4 of Dark Desires Academy. I hope today's lesson has given you something to think about. If you enjoyed today's lesson, I would love for you to subscribe and continue your journey with me. If you'd like to explore today's topic in more depth, then the companion workbook will be coming soon. In our next lesson, we will be exploring signs you're naturally submissive, where we'll look at some of the common qualities people recognize in themselves and why everyone's journey is completely different. It's their journey which makes them unique. So until then, take care of yourself, keep learning, and remember, knowledge is the foundation, discipline shapes the journey, and growth comes one lesson at a time.